So today we're going to be making a fun piece of artwork based on this book, The Color Monster. I love all these illustrations in here and all the textures you get from these really fun papers. And it looks like they even added some different kinds of paper like cardboard. Even that looks like it's from a book even. So today we're going to start by making some fun paper to kind of show different emotions that we're going to be adding to what I like to call an emotions book. So this is an example of kind of the paper we're going to create today. And you're going to see lots of different colors, and each of these colors is going to represent a different emotion that we feel. So what we're going to start with today is some crayons and watercolors, or if you don't have watercolor or paints, you can also use markers and a piece of paper. We're going to start by taking our piece of paper, folding it in half, and then we're going to take this part and fold it over and over to create 3 sections. So I'm kind of folding it in and then folding this one over to create 3 sections. This way we're going to have 6 different squares on our piece of paper. You open up that and you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in each of these 6 spaces, you're going to think of an emotion. And with that emotion, you're going to think of a color that you feel represents that emotion. In the book, we saw some colors that the monster felt that represented different emotions, but yours can be completely different than what the monster felt as well. So for example, for the monster, he felt that happiness was yellow. For you, happiness might be green or blue. So you can do it however you choose to do it. I think I will do it the same as the monster, so it'll give you some more ways that you can do it at home. So I'm going to start with a yellow, and I'm going to think of a line that kind of represents to me what happiness would be. So for me, I think of a curly line because my heart maybe is flittering and fluttering fast because I'm really feeling good about life and about what's happening and really loving life. And if you want, you could even add a color close to that. So maybe you want some orange curly lines, or maybe you're going to have some sparks of joy. All right, and then the next one, you're going to think about another feeling. So another feeling that the monster had was anger, and for that he felt red for representing anger. So again, you can use those colors. So this is kind of like a bright orange, and think about a line that would represent anger. So maybe like a scribble, because you're so angry you can't even control your crayon because you're so upset. And again, you can use a couple different colors to represent that. And another feeling that our fabulous color monster felt was sadness. And sadness, he chose blue to represent sadness. So maybe sadness is like a zigzag line or even a wavy line, because you kind of feel that sadness kind of washing over you, putting weight on your heart. Maybe almost feels like you actually have water weight on your chest because it's just kind of heavy feeling. And again, you can use multiple colors to really show that. Another feeling our color monster felt was calm, and when he felt calm, he thought of green. So when you think of calm, you might think of maybe like a wavy line because you're just kind of enjoying and being in the moment and being aware of what's going on around you. You're really comfortable with what's happening. Nothing's kind of standing out to you at all. And again, you might add some other colors. All right, and we're gonna add 2 more emotions. One emotion you might feel sometimes is that emotion frustrated. We can feel frustrated when maybe we're trying to explain something, but the person we're explaining it to doesn't really understand it. That can be really frustrating. When I think of frustrated, I kind of think of orange, like my eyesight's getting kind of orange, filled with orange, because I am getting a little bit, almost to the point where I'm angry, because the person that I'm trying to talk to isn't really understanding where I'm coming from. So maybe frustrated will be some curly lines because it's a lot of emotions. And then maybe also, in addition to curly lines, it's going to have some exploding lines. Because frustrated is almost that feeling I get before I maybe get really, really angry and explode. So when I feel frustrated, I like to take a deep breath. Maybe I need to walk away from the situation. Sometimes we can get really frustrated with our friends if they're maybe not listening to what we want to do, or maybe not sharing the toys that we want to play with. All right, and then I think in my next one, I'm going to think of, maybe brave. Brave. I think when I'm brave, I think I would maybe feel like purple. So brave, maybe I was really brave one day when I went and talked to the teacher about something that was bothering me, but I didn't know how to talk to him about it, or maybe I was standing up for a friend that someone was maybe not being so nice to. So brave, I'm going to do purple. So I'm going to start with a purple crayon, and let me think of a line. Maybe a line would be kind of this explosion, because being brave, you kind of almost feel like a superhero. So like a superhero explosion. So this is almost actually a shape, not a line, and that's totally fine too. You can do shapes instead of lines. Maybe I'll add some pink. So being brave can be a feeling that we don't often feel, especially if something is really hard for us to do. My son, for instance, he has to be brave once in a while because he's a little bit scared of heights. So sometimes maybe if he's going on a tall slide, he has to be a little brave so he can go down that slide and accomplish that. This is kind of a fun crayon. It's got a couple different colors on it. So maybe I'm gonna have some exploding lines too. All right, so now that I have my 6 emotions that I'm gonna be working with, happy, let's see, I have happy, angry, mad, sad, calm, frustrated, and brave. Now that I have these emotions, I'm going to add some water over the top, and we're going to do a process that's called wax resist. So watercolor is not going to be able to cover up where we put our crayon. So our beautiful lines that we created to represent those emotions are going to show up. Again, if you don't have watercolors, you can use markers. The same effect is going to happen. And if you want those markers to look more like watercolor, you could just add a little bit water to them. Another thing you can do is food coloring. So any of those will work to create the same effect. All right, so I have my paintbrush and my water and my watercolors. And I'm going to start in each of these. I'm going to go over those lines with the same color I chose to represent that emotion. So again, your colors are going to probably be different than mine because you might think of different colors when you think of certain emotions, and that's totally fine. So I'm going to go ahead and take some yellow from my watercolor palette here, and I'm going to go yellow right over the top of my yellow and orange lines. You're going to see all those fun lines still showing up. I'm going to wash off my brush, and I'm going to go red right over the top of my angry lines. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to all 6 of my emotions that I chose. So I just added all of my watercolor to all of my 6 emotions that I created. So now if you would like to join us in the next video, and I will show you how we can turn this beautiful paper into some fun illustrations for our very own emotions book. And then we created some beautiful painted paper. So today we're going to be taking our painted paper, and if you would like, we can use this painted paper, or you can make your book however you would like. And we're going to create our very own book. And I just used a small brown paper bag to do this. And this book is going to be cover page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. So just how we have our 6 emotions right here, we can have a page for each of those emotions. So I'm going to show you how to quickly fold this book, and then we'll be creating the pages for our very own emotions book. So for my book, I'm just going to be using a brown paper bag. I'm going to start by cutting up the side here and cutting off the bottom. You can use just one side of the bag and make your book about this size, or you can use the whole thing and make a really big book. So you choose how big you want it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and then I'll show you how we're going to fold it. Alright, so I just cut off one section of the brown paper bag to create my book. You are more than welcome to use that whole bag and just cut off the bottom of it to create your book, and your book will be a lot bigger. I like to use the brown paper bags to create the book because it's a little bit of a thicker, more durable paper. The first thing we're going to do is, if you have images on one side, you're going to want to fold your bag so the images are on the inside, and we're going to start by folding it in half, hot dog style or landscape style, and make a nice crease. Alright, and then we're going to fold that in half and make another crease. So you might notice some of your cuts aren't perfect, and we can always go back and fix that later, so don't worry about that. So I'm going to open up, and I should have a crease down the middle. I'm going to take this side and fold it into that middle crease and make a nice fold. Alright, I'm going to open that up. I'm going to take this in from this side and fold it into that middle crease. So now we should have our piece of paper folded in half with 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. I'm going to open it up so that I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections. And I'm going to fold it the opposite way this time. Now I'm going to fold it portrait style. So now I have more of a smaller rectangle, not such a long rectangle. And I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut from the folded edge, not the side that opens, but the folded edge, into where the intersection is to that last crease we made. So from here to here, I'm going to make a cut. Make sure you don't cut it all the way off. What this is going to do, it's going to be making a big cut in the middle of our piece of paper. So now I kind of have some pants, right? I have the top part of my pants and where my legs would go. But again, this is on the folded edge, so it's not coming apart. I'm going to open it up again, and you're going to see now you have a mouth in the middle of our paper. Oh my goodness. And I'm going to go ahead and fold it back into that hot dog style. And now we have a big hole in the middle. So what you're going to notice is you're going to be able to push, 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 push where that hole is to kind of create 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. And these are going to be each of our pages. So now we just need to decide which side we want to be our cover. So I'm going to decide this is my cover, so I'm going to go ahead and fold that. And now I have my book. Now my book is still kind of wonky, so I might want to take my scissors and trim it up so it's a little bit straighter. So I think I'm going to take it, I kind of want my book to be a little bit more square instead of rectangle. I'm just going to cut off some of the bottom, and then I might trim some of the pages so they lay a little bit nicer. That one's good. Let's trim that a little bit. There, so now I have a nice book. And again, this is a 6-page book with a cover, and the most difficult part when you make your book is going to be from going from here, where we folded it in half. We're going to push, 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 and then we're going to decide which side we want to be of our sections here. We want to be our cover. We're going to take that, we're going to fold, fold, fold it, to create our book, and we've made our very own little book. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take my colored paper that we painted in our last video, and I'm going to use each of these pages for a page for our colored paper. So in this book, The Color Monster, there's a couple ways that she created each page. So she had a little monster on each page representing that emotion, which you could easily do. It would be a very fun way to illustrate your book. Another thing that she did that I liked is she created these little bottles to put those emotions in. So for my book, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a little bottle for each page to represent that emotion. So I'm going to start by taking some white paper and creating those bottles and the caps. And then in each of those bottles, I'm going to be cutting out little sections from my colored paper that I made here to put in those bottles. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly, and then I'll show you what that looks like. So now that I've made my book, my little book here, I'm going to make the little jars that I'm going to put all of my emotions in from my emotion paper that I made. But again, you can make your pages however you want. You don't have to put your emotions in jars. You can make them into little monsters. You could just make really colorful pages to represent each of those emotions however you choose. I can kind of make sure that I get them the right size. Is fold my paper in half. And you can do this for your monsters or for anything that you want. I could even just take this paper, draw my jars on here, but I want my jars to have different objects like little flowers, things like that. So I'm going to draw it on a white paper first and then add those details with the yellow in the emotion paper. All right, so I'm gonna start this side. Let's see, this jar will have a nice big jar. Other thing you can do with jars, because they're symmetrical, I could fold each of these sections in half and then cut it out to have a nice symmetrical jar. So then I don't have to worry about drawing it symmetrical. I like those easy shortcuts. All right, here's one jar. I might want to curve the bottom a little bit more. Go ahead and draw another jar. Maybe this one is just going to be like a mason jar. And that's less cutting too. Half as much cutting. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish making all 6 jars, and then I'll show you some ways you could add some different lids to your jars. All right. So I have 6 jars cut out, and I am loving the variety in shapes. Now I'm going to just use some extra paper from my brown paper bag to create the lids. So I'm going to do that by placing my jars on them, and then I'm just going to kind of see what shape lid I want and cut those out, and then I'll glue those on. Again, you could do these the same way we did our jars, where we just folded it in half so that they're symmetrical. And again, the word symmetrical means that they're the same on both sides. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue on the top of this jar to get this lid to stay. And I might want to outline it with a black crayon so it shows up when I glue it onto the page, like that. I think I have a black crayon somewhere that's blue. I'm just going to go around the top. Maybe I'll make some lines to show like texture, just to differentiate it from the brown of the bag. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add a jar to each of my, or I'm sorry, a lid to each of my jars. So I created all the fun lids for my jars. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to open up, and I'm going to start with my very first page. So my first page, I think I'm going to do happy. So I'm going to take my yellow, I think maybe I'll make some flowers. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the word happy. You could always write the word happy on here or maybe on the bottom, however you want. But you're going to make it the way you want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and start illustrating. Remember, illustrating means I'm going to make the pictures for each of my 6 emotions. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the very first emotion, happy, and I'll show you what that will look like. So I used my painted paper. You can see I have a lot left because I wanted to save a little bit because I have a plan for what I want to do for my cover. But I had used my fun paper to create the words happy down here. I made a little sun and a little flower. Then I decided I felt like it needed a little bit more color. So I used these Wonder Sticks, but of course you could use crayons, anything you have at home, to add a little bit more color to this as well as to the background. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down for my very first page. I'm going to go on to my next emotion. I believe my next emotion is angry. So for my next emotion, I am going to use maybe, let's see, this jar for angry. Maybe I'll put like flames in this one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish illustrating all 6 pages, and then I'll show you what we can do for the cover. Now, something you might want to do for your pages is maybe you want to write some text, so it's a little bit not only illustrated book, but also you have some words that go along with your picture. So maybe your text, you're going to tell us what makes you feel happy or when you feel happiest. So go ahead and create your illustrations, and I'll show you how I am going to create mine. All right, so I just finished making all of the pages of my book. I had my happy page, my mad page. My mad page I had fire because it sometimes feels like I'm burning inside. I can feel that anger rising in me. Happy, I have my flowers and my sun. Sad, I put a little umbrella and some raindrops and some water on the bottom. Calm, I put some nature because I always feel really calm when I'm going into the woods. Frustrated, I put a box because sometimes when I feel frustrated, I feel stuck, like I can't get past what I'm working on. So sometimes it helps me if I step away and I take a break from whatever I'm working on, or take a break from a friend that I'm getting frustrated with. Brave, I put a city because I think if I was brave, I could go into a city and accomplish anything I wanted. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the cover. So for the cover of your book, you can title your book whatever you want. I think I'm going to title my book I Feel. So I'm going to use some of the fun paper we made and cut out I Feel. And then I think I might add some more jars to represent the jars that are in the book. So I'm going to go ahead and make the cover of my book. I just finished my cover. I feel, and then I put some jars on the bottom, and there's all my feelings in my 6 pages of my emotions book. Just a reminder that I might have put all of my emotions in containers doesn't necessarily mean you should contain your feelings. It's really important that you feel all of your feelings, but it's also really important to be able to understand those feelings. So these containers kind of represent how I'm kind of like an emotion scientist, and I'm going to bottle up these emotions and observe them and understand them so I can better regulate and understand my emotions so that I can optimize those emotions that I really like. So when I'm mad, I can figure out why I'm mad and move on to an emotion maybe I'm more comfortable with, like happy. All right, I can't wait to see those books that you illustrate, and have a fabulous, colorful, art-filled day.